Dear professors, teachers, parents, and my dear students, greetings from Kumaraguru College of Liberal Arts and Science, Coimbatore, India. A warm welcome to second day of our international webinar series on digital and media literacy in Disinformation Age. Class started this virtual show so as to make mindfulness on media literacy, which is the need of great importance. This webinar is organized by the Department of Visual Communication, Kumaraguru College of Liberal Arts and Science, Coimbatore, India. This event is in partnership with UNESCO's Global Alliance for Partnership on Media and Information Literacy. The comprehensive training model of class is based on philosophy of liberal arts education and to fabricate a typical comprehensive of the information, abilities, perspectiveness, and qualities understudies need in the 21st century. Expression educations mix various orders from social sciences to sciences, from business studies to writing and expressive arts into an all-encompassing scholastic canvas. Kumaraguru College of Liberal Arts and Science offers various programs under wings of 10 schools. The School of Visual Communication offers 3-year program BSc Visual Communication, 1-year diploma program in visual effects, and we do offer 6 months program in diploma in journalism. Please do check our websites for more details. Now, let me welcome Ms. Ananda to welcome our guest of today's webinar, Dr. Anu Yadav from Indian Institute of Mass Communication, New Delhi. It's over to Ananda, Ms.
Thank you so much, Professor Leo Gertrude. Welcome back, everyone, to the day 2 of the International Webinar Series. Yesterday's response to the webinar of Dr. Firoz was astounding, to say the least. There was a whole plethora of questions that came pouring to us, and we were able to take on quite a few of them. I know you're all back today with refreshed vigor. When we talk time and again about media literacy, we need to remember that it's not about protecting our kids from unwanted messages. Some families even choose to keep their children off the television itself. There are divided views about this, but the fact is that media is so ingrained in our cultural milieu that even if you turn off the television, you can't really escape today's media culture. Media no longer just influences our culture, media is our culture. Therefore, media literacy is all about helping our children and ourselves become competent, critical, and literate in all media forms so that we can control and understand what we hear or see. So, when I'm watching the evening news, I'm not there just to learn facts and statistics from there, but rather to learn to raise the right questions about what you're watching, listening, or reading to. This is the key area of discussion and something that we need to, weave into the fabric of our society to not only expect media professionals to be ethical and conscious of what they put out, but also for us as responsible citizens to be aware consumers of this media. When I read a forward message, I should be able to critically think and not accept it at just its face value. To take this discussion forward and to keep that spark going, we have today with us someone who, to say the least, is an expert in this particular area, Dr. Anubhuti Yadav. She's very well known and revered in academic circles in India. For the benefit of our participants from across the globe, let me give you a brief introduction. Dr. Anubhuti Yadav is the head of the Department of New Media and the course director of Advertising and PR at Indian Institute of Mass Communication, Delhi. She's very well known for her well-researched and interestingly written books and articles, and is a leading expert and an active promoter of media literacy in India, and has played a key role in introducing media studies at school level in India. being someone who not only talks the talk, but also walks the walk. From 2008, she has taken up the project of setting up media clubs in schools and even train teachers to set up these media clubs across the country. Dr. Anubhuti is with the NCRT and has worked extensively in areas of educational media, educational technology, and media literacy. In fact, her work in the area of educational media has won her 4 national awards. She has organized even training programs in new media for the officers from the armed forces and for various other ministries like the Ministry of Panchayati Raj, Ministry of Drinking Water and Sanitation, Ministry of Rural Development, and the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. It's indeed an honor to have you here today, ma'am. The focus for today's discussion with her is media literacy in the disinformation age. And I'm as excited as you all to hear what she has to share with us with her varied experience in both the research and the practical avenues of the same. Welcome to our session today, ma'am. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ananda, for such a nice introduction. And a very good afternoon to all of you who are watching this particular program. And I would like to thank the organizers for putting this thing together. Having experts from the media and information literacy space. And I've seen all the speakers. There have been a number of people who are working in this space for quite some time. So it's really a nice initiative to bring them together on one platform so that they can share their experiences and whatever they have learned over the years. So thank you very much, and congratulations to the entire team. So what we are going to do today, we'll be talking about media and information literacy and how to navigate COVID infodemic. As we know that, when this pandemic started, there was a lot of information, misinformation, fake news, rumors around COVID-19. And I'm really very happy that at this point of time, people have realized that, there is no way you can stop this, but there is a solution to this, and that is media and information literacy. And I'm extremely happy that number of universities, colleges, non-government organizations, government organizations, even the platforms like Facebook and Twitter and Google, they're also talking about, media and information literacy. So this is something which we are going to talk about, and I'll take you through my presentation. So mainly what we are going to do today is we'll be talking about the need for MIL, why MIL is important in any society. What is media and information literacy? We keep talking about it, but we need to be aware of what exactly we mean by media and information literacy and who is media and information literate. We'll be also talking about MIL initiatives in India. I got feedback from the organizers yesterday that there were a lot of questions related to how it started in India and what is happening in India in this particular space. So I added this point, and that's why there are 2 3s here. So I'm extremely sorry for this. And then we'll be talking about COVID infodemic, and then we'll talk about MIL skills to navigate COVID infodemic. So this is the agenda for this particular session, and in this 1 hour, I'll try to cover all these points. So now coming on to what exactly is media, why media literacy? This is the most important question. We've been talking a lot about literacy, and we all feel, and rightly so, that this is something which is very, very important. So when we talk about literacy, literacy means ability to read and write. But somehow I feel that there is a need to broaden this definition, because when we were talking about literacy earlier, we were talking about the print literacy. So the definition of literacy is ability to read and write, and the reason is that most of the content, most of the information, most of the knowledge was available in printed format. But now, as we all know, that there's a lot of information and there's not a lot of knowledge available in the different formats. For example, video, audio, infographics, websites, television. When you're watching news, when you're watching program, you're also learning a lot. So somewhere there is a need to broaden this definition of literacy. So it's not just ability to read and write the printed words, that's very important. But in addition to that, we also need to be media literate. We also need to be information literate. So there is a need to broaden this particular definition. And since we are surrounded with media messages, there's an importance that we should talk about MIL to our students, and not only students, even with the elderly people. Second very important thing why media literacy is that, and especially when we talk about school students, see, media is a very important part of our life. It's a very crucial part of our life. And in fact, the researches which were done, a few years back, it says that, the students, they spend on an average 6 hours in front of television. And it was also said that, the television is just like school away from school. So we are teaching our students everything, which means like all the social science subjects, political science, sociology, history, geography, maths, everything we are teaching our students. But somewhere we are not talking about something which is very crucial to their life, something with which they spend most of their time with. I'm talking about 6 hours in front of television. I mean, this is something which was done 10-15 years back. Right now, I mean, the students are spending most of their time in front of screens, and especially like during this lockdown period and when the schools are shut, most of the classes happening, online, and these students are learning online. Whenever they get break, they take break, and when they're taking break, they're on their smartphones. So they are consuming a lot of content from the different screens. It could be laptop, it could be smartphone, it could be television screen. So it is very, very important to talk about media literacy, how to consume media messages to children also, and also like to other people also, like all the people in the society, they need to be media literate. But it's always good to start early. So that's why we need media literacy. We also know that the media, it has a huge impact. It has effects on individuals and also on society. And I don't want to get into like all the theories, but if you classify the theories, so when we talk about the heavy effects, you have hypodermic model, you have cultivation theory, which talks about the heavy effect of media, wherein they are saying that the audience, they are passive, and the media takes the control, and the people believe whatever they see on screen or whatever they read. Then you have limited effect of media, and you have two-step model, agenda setting, wherein they're saying that it's not only the media, but your conversation, your interaction with the different people also plays a very important role. And then you have light effect, which is uses and gratification, which means you decide what you want to consume, and you play a very important role, rather than the media playing important role or serving you whatever they want to serve you in form of the media content. So this is like basically about the media effects. Those who are into journalism and mass communication studies, we can go on and on as far as these particular theories and models are concerned, but broadly to tell you that what kind of effect does media have. Now, I'll just take you through some of the examples. For example, when we talk about effects, we're talking about heavy effects, we're talking about light effects. We're also talking about negative effects, we're also talking about positive effects. And this is something which we all need to know, because this actually tells us why media and information literacy is so important to all of us, and how it is affecting people and individuals in a society. These are some of the clippings which I have taken from newspapers, and I've taken it through a few years back. This is the first one. 6-year-old boy who loved Spider-Man fell from the bedroom window after thinking he was invincible like his hero. So this is one. This is like the scene from that particular site. Then you have another news item. 9-year-old Demore Miles dies in jump off Brooklyn apartment, may have been imitating video game. Then this is something which came from our country. So between fact and fantasy, and in this what happened that few teenagers, they kidnapped their classmate, and they end up murdering him. And they had kidnapped because they wanted to get some money from their parents. And after they said that they took this inspiration from their favorite serial, which is CID. This is another story from India, which means Bollywood thriller inspired teen to kill two senior citizens. Now, in this case, this teen, they didn't want to kill senior citizens. They just wanted to steal some money. They wanted to buy fancy phones. So it's not just this particular movie, one Bollywood thriller, motivated them to do so. So it was one, the impact of media, and also they wanted to buy cell phones and all these gadgets because their friends had that. So the peer pressure also played a very important role in this. So whenever we are talking about effect, we cannot say that it's just because of media. There are a number of other factors. They're also playing their part in that. Now, these are some negative stories. Now, talking about some positive. We've all heard about Arab Spring, right? Now, what is Arab Spring? Arab Spring is like there were a number of anti-government protests, uprising in Arab countries, and this was basically like people's response to oppressive government, and this is something which was triggered by social media, and this was something which was started in Tunisia. I have just one example, specific example to show you, and that is about Egypt uprising. And this is the photograph of one of the boy, and the name of this boy is Khalid Said. And this is what happened in his case was that this boy was arrested, and because he actually managed to click photographs of police officials who were sharing drugs which they had confiscated earlier, and he was arrested. And next day, when people came to inquire about him, they got to know that this young boy died. When people asked police officials, what happened to this guy, police said that he was a drug addict. He swallowed a pack of marijuana, he choked, and he died. And that was the kind of response which came from police. And for people, they couldn't believe that, because they saw this boy's body, and which is clear that this boy didn't die because he swallowed a pack of marijuana, but he was beaten to death. So his photographs were clicked, his photographs were shared on Facebook, other social media platforms. And at that point of time, people realized that if this can happen to this boy, this can happen to anyone. So at that point of time, there was this one boy, and he was a Google employee. He started a page which is called We Are All Khalid Singh. And this boy, when he started this page, and this page acted as a platform wherein people could collectivize. They were talking about issues. They were planning how to protest against the government. So this page actually triggered a lot of protest and movement in Egypt. And in one of the interview, when Ghanim, who was the administrator of that particular page, he said that when I went to Tahrir Square, where millions of people were gathered, I was surprised to see that one page can trigger so much of maybe movement, or a lot of people are coming out on street to protest against their government. So this is the positive side of media, social media, when people can bring about change. And after that, we know that the president had to step down, and the military took over. So this is one of the case study which talks about the positive impact of media, wherein people actually collectivize because of social media. This is another example of this Syrian refugee crisis. We've all seen this, photograph of Alan Kurdi, and he's a boy from Syria. His parents, wanted to leave that place because of the Syrian war, and while they were moving, their boat capsized, and they drowned. And this boy was discovered by one of the photographer, and her name was Nilofer. And she clicked this photograph, and she said that I could not do anything when I looked at this boy. The only thing which I could do was to click his photograph, so that people can hear the scream of this dead body. And this is what happened. This photograph was there everywhere on social media, in traditional media, newspaper, television. People talked about it, and the impact of this was that the countries, they opened their doors for refugees. There were train loads of refugees which went, those who went to Germany after this. So this is the kind of impact one photograph can have on society. This is another case, another photograph, and people might have seen this photograph a lot, and this is known as a Napalm Girl. And this is something which happened, long time back in 1972 during Vietnam War. And this talks about the atrocities of that war. And this photographer, the name of the photographer is Nick, and he said in one of the interview that I was surprised to see why these soldiers and these kids, and then there was this one girl naked who was running towards me. Then he realized that, there was this plane who by mistake, there was this napalm was dropped, and this girl, her clothes were burned, and they were all running towards him in this particular direction in search of water. Now in this also, this particular photograph was shared widely in the mainstream media, newspapers and all. And the impact of this was that in 1973 the America withdrew from that. So this was the impact. And these are the the defining images of the atrocities of war. The one is from the Syria and another one is from Vietnam. So this is why we need media literacy, because we know that media has a lot of power. It can do a lot of things. So the people need to understand that. So one is that it can affect you in a negative way, but at the same time it has a lot of positives also. So, but coming on to the main point, what exactly is media literacy? We keep talking about it. This is the definition which is used very widely when we are talking about the media literacy. So it is the ability to access, analyze, evaluate, create, and act using all forms of communication. This is what media and information literacy is. Now, when we talk about media and information literacy, it's an umbrella term, and there are a number of other literacies which are part of it, and which you can see in this particular diagram also. For example, information literacy, library literacy, freedom of information, digital literacy, computer literacy. So these are all literacy which are part of MIL. So MIL is a very broad term. There are people who are working in the area of advertising literacy. There are people who are working in the area of news literacy. So depending upon their expertise, they are working on it. But when it comes to society, when it comes to individuals, they need to be aware of all these factors, and all they need to be literate in all these areas. So there are 5 very important concepts in media literacy. We have to understand this. The first one is all media messages are constructed. This is something which we have to keep in mind. Usually what happens that we have this discussion and debate, and many a time I've seen students quoting that this is right because I've read it in newspaper, or this is right because I have seen it on television channel. But we have to keep this thing in mind that all media messages are constructed. When someone is constructing those messages, there definitely will be some element of bias in that. They might include something, they might exclude something. So we have to be very, very careful when we look at media or look at media messages. We need to ask these questions that this is the news story. In this news story, what all are included and what all is not included in this story, which could have otherwise been a part of this particular story. So we need to ask questions, and we have to keep this in mind that all media messages are constructed. Second very important thing is that media messages are constructed using a creative language with its own rules. And this is something which we see very often on television. There is a scary music, because obviously, like when you listen to that scary music, the people, that emotion of fear is there. You see a very bold big headline. Whenever like you want to give importance to a one particular issue, it is being done, right? You show a close-up of one person. The close-up of a person is shown when you want to show the intimacy with the person, or maybe like any sort of that scene. So they have their own language. It has its own rules. For example, we might have seen this very often on television nowadays. Whenever we see all those debates, you could see a screen, and you see all the bold colors of on the screens, orange, red, and you can also see, I've seen number of times, the flames, just to show that how important this particular issue is. So this is like the language of media, and they use different languages. They have different rules to make one particular point, to give importance to one thing or the other. Third very important thing is that different people experience the same media message differently. So it depends. Say, for example, there is a fake content, or maybe like a piece of information which is viral on WhatsApp or on social media. There are certain people who will end up believing that, but there are some people who will question that. So that depends upon their education, that depends upon their culture, that depends upon the kind of interaction which they are having in their family. So there are a number of factors which plays a very important role. So we cannot say that this one message will affect all people in the same way. No, people experience the same media messages differently. Fourth very important point is that media are primarily business driven by a profit motive, and we have to keep this thing in mind, that at the end of it, they have to make profit because they have to sustain themselves in the market. There's a lot of competition. Many a times it happens that the advertisements which actually govern the content of the newspapers or channels. This is the trend which we had seen, not now, at the time of the lockdown. I mean, I could say that the newspaper suffered the most, and the first thing was that what we see was in the first week of the lockdown, the pages reduced to 6. So you could see like how much news was there and how much advertisement were there at that point of time. But we have also seen the trend wherein the first page of the newspaper was not the news, it was an ad of a one particular product. So this is how the newspapers or media, they are making money, and at the end of it we need to realize that these are the businesses driven by profit. And then the last is media have embedded values and point of views. They have their own values, they have their own point of views, which is clearly visible when you see any talk show on a television, any debate. You would see that there are certain group of people who are invited very often. Why is it so? Have you ever asked that question? We can also see that, okay, there are a number of occasions when we see that the representation of women is not there, right? So that talks about that particular organization. So they have their embedded values and points of view, and this can only be understood when we start asking questions. Why is it that this one person comes again and again? What is the authority of this particular person to talk on this topic? So we need to ask questions as a media and information literate citizens. So these are the media literacy competencies, which are very, very important. And this is something which we need to work on. The first one is access. When we are talking about access, how we can responsibly access information, retrieve information, and share it with others. Analyze and evaluate. Analyze means like who created this particular message, why this was created, is there anything omitted in this, is there anything added in this particular message deliberately. So these are the questions which we need to ask. Creation is also one very important part of media and information literacy. Earlier, people were only talking about that, we should be in a position to only analyze messages. Yes, it's very important. But when you create content, when you create a video, when you create an audio, when you create an infographic, or maybe when you start working on a newspaper, say, for example, there are a number of schools, they run their own newspapers. When you create, you understand what goes behind the screen and what is the process of creating that particular stuff. Then you understand it well. Say, for example, I went to one school and they had to release their newspaper. And the students, they came to me and they said that, ma'am, the principal didn't give us money, so we couldn't make multiple copies of this newspapers. And then one of the students said that, then we realized that why not have advertisement from outside. So they went out, collected advertisement from number of stationery shops from there, and they created their multiple copies of that particular newspaper. Which means when you create, you understand what goes into it. Then reflect your own behavior, behavior related to media consumption, how you are consuming it. Are you believing whatever coming your way? Are you questioning content or not? Are you forwarding without thinking? And then act. So there are a number of occasions wherein you realize that yes, there's something wrong, but you just stop at that. you feel that, oh, this advertisement is not good, it's not in good taste, it's vulgar, and you have a discussion and you leave it there. No. So media and information literacy says that if you come across any such information, you have to act on that. So that is something which is very, very important. So these are media and information literacy competencies. We'll talk about these competencies again when we'll talk about the COVID infodemic, which is, and we'll try and understand this further. So I got this input from the organizers that yesterday when this webinar was happening, there were a lot of questions on what is happening in our country. Very quickly, I'll take you through this, what's happening in our country. For example, as far as media and information literacy as a concept is concerned, world over, it's not a new concept. You know, it started in 50s, 40s, and people were talking about it. But in India also, there were certain groups in South, they were talking about it. But when it comes to integration of media and information literacy formally in our curriculum, it started around 2006 or 7. So these are the things which happened in India, and most of the things were happened simultaneously. So one is media studies was introduced in school curriculum, and I'll tell you how it was introduced, what were the problems faced, and where are we right now. And then media clubs in schools, grassroots comics, children's newspapers, Expressions India, cinema as a tool for teaching, filmy chashma. These are a number of initiatives which happen in the field of media and information literacy, and these are the initiatives wherein all the people who were involved in it, they were actually focusing more on children, because we felt that they, they they are at a stage and they have impressionable minds, they are affected with the media content a lot, so it's better to start with them. So coming on to school curriculum, how it was introduced. So the media actually entered the boundaries of school with one very important key point, which was made in national curriculum framework, and which was connecting knowledge to the life outside the school. And when we read that, we realized that when they are saying that connecting knowledge to the life outside the school means that when they are learning a lot from something which is not there in the school. And as I said earlier, the television is considered as another school away from school. So we thought that yes, making this as a base, we can introduce media studies, or we can start at least talking about media studies at school level. And then we thought that the way other subjects are being taught, similarly the media studies has to be taught. So this was the first initiative which happened after national curriculum 2005, when the first lot of textbooks came. The media was made a very integral part of the textbook, so it was integrated with the different subjects. And how it was integrated with the subjects, as you can see here on your screen, there were a lot of examples from the newspapers, international, national. There were a lot of examples about television serials, television content there in their textbook. So the media messages were used as an example to explain certain concepts. So this is how it was integrated. So this was the first stage and the first step. The second was, then we realized that we need to understand what are the media literacy initiatives across the world. So we studied that. A report is already available with NCRT. So it was a collation of all the media literacy activities which were happening across the world. And there we realized that this is something, for us it's a new, but in other countries it's a very old concept and a phenomenon. A lot of people were working in this particular area. Then in India, a lot of people were interviewed who were working in this particular area. There were a lot of programs were made on media literacy, and which was like aired on DD also, and which are also available on NCRT YouTube channel also. So these programs were made to create awareness on media and information literacy among teachers and amongst parents. Then this was the third phase, wherein we felt that media as a subject has to be introduced. And the first thing which happened, that it was introduced in class 11th and 12th. And it was introduced, but there were challenges. And The challenges were that most of the teachers, they were unfamiliar with the subject because the subject was not available in B.Ed or M.Ed, when the teachers, they do their course. Second, the teachers and parents, both of them, they felt that, if you introduce this subject, there will be a curriculum load by another subject, right? The students are already, they are burdened with a lot of subjects. So that's another concern. And this was solved by offering it as an elective subject. So whosoever wanted, they can take that particular subject. So these were the challenges which were faced by the teachers and the parents and the schools and even the organizations when we talk about the media as a subject. Then there were a lot of training programs which were conducted for teachers, so that at least like we felt that they need to be trained in this particular area. So the teachers who were teaching languages or maybe like social science subject, which is, I feel, not a right thing to do, because if someone has to teach media or media and information literacy, they need to have a training in media. But since we didn't have any such teachers, so we tried to get teachers who were interested in this particular area. Then once when this was introduced, when this started running in the schools, teachers still felt that they are not prepared enough to handle this particular subject, and there were very few takers for this subject in school. So two strategies to introduce media studies at school level didn't work. One, integrating it with other subjects, which means that the focus was on the subject rather than the media inputs which were used to explain those particular subjects, and then the offering it as a standalone subject. So it didn't work the way we wanted it to work. So then there were consultation with the teachers, and at that point of time came the idea of establishing media clubs in schools. And then the media clubs were actually established in a number of schools. They went well, and these are the objectives of media clubs. Mainly was like they should understand the effects of mass media on individuals and society. They should be in a position to deconstruct media messages. They should be able to produce. They should be able to express themselves like through different media formats. So this was the broad objective of media clubs, and this was a successful initiative out of all this. And this was a website which was created at that point of time. So these are the few things which happened in our country as far as the introduction of this particular subject is concerned. Somewhere we failed, somewhere we achieved something, but I personally feel that we have a long way to go, right? The media clubs, which did very well, after a point of time, they also teachers start losing the interest because there was no hand holding. They didn't have any motivation to continue with that. So somewhere I think at the national level, there has to be a policy for media and information literacy. If that is done, then I'm sure that a lot can be done in this particular space. So, and now, yes, CBSE is again starting with this. And they're saying that why 11th and 12th, we have to start this with 7th onwards. So here we are talking about only media and information literacy. We're not talking about, introducing media so that the students can have career in media, just like media and information literacy, so that they are wise consumers of media messages. So now coming on to what is happening right now and why we need to be media literate, and why at least, when we talk about coronavirus outbreak or this pandemic, I feel that, this has triggered the debate on media and information literacy, and that's why we see a lot of discussions, a lot of debates, a lot of webinars on MIL. So in a way, it's a positive thing which had happened. So this coronavirus outbreak has generated tsunami of information. There was a lot of information. There's a lot of rumors, misinformation, right, on WhatsApp, on social media. And at that point of time, and still it is very important to sift fact from fiction. We need to know what is right and what is wrong. So how do we do that? Even like at the point of time, WHO, he said that we are not just fighting an epidemic, we are fighting an infodemic. And he said that, the spread of the virus is fast, but the spread of the rumors related to this virus is faster, much faster than that. So at that point of time, what WHO did, and I'll talk about other organizations also, they started a section on their website which is called Mythbusters. And this is the link of that section. But if you go to WHO website, it's there on their homepage, the first page, and you can go there. And they have taken number of fake information, misinformation, which were doing rounds related to COVID-19, and they what they have done is they have debunked those information. For example, misuse of hydroxychloroquine. So this was one. Similarly, a number of this, like it can be transmitted through mosquito bites. So they picked up like what was getting viral at that point of time, and they debunked that particular piece of information, misinformation. And then drinking alcohol does not protect you against COVID-19 and can be dangerous. So this was something which was done by WHO. What happened in our country, how we handled with this. Even in India, there were a lot of information, and when we talk about the misinformation and disinformation and also fake news, there's a lot of such content there in the regional language. So like what happened in our country and how we dealt with this. So PIB, Press Information Bureau, they started, the Twitter handle countering misinformation on government policies and schemes. They already had one. So they started, debunking misinformation related to COVID-19 on their, social media handle. So you can see the WhatsApp number is there. They have email ID, PIB fact check. So whatever, if you come across anything fake, but it has to be related to the government policies and schemes. This is their mandate, and this is what they are doing right now. And they are there on Facebook, Instagram, on Twitter also. So this is the kind of information which were doing rounds and which were viral at that point of time. So it says that there is a pilot project started by Government of India, which is called Rashtriya Shikshit Berozgar Yojana, and which means that 50,000 will be given to all ration card holders. So they said that there is no such scheme. So they fact checked this. At the time of the pandemic lockdown, people were not going to office. So there was this news item. It says that केंद्रीय कर्मचारियों को सुबह 9 से शाम 7 बजे तक काम करना पड़ेगा. After this lockdown is over. So they fact checked that this was not right. Then there was a scholarship scheme for English medium students, and then there was a URL for that, for the form. And then they fact checked this, that there is no such scholarship. Then center likely to reduce retirement age to 50 in coronavirus crisis. So this was also fact checked. And if you go to the website, there were a number of such stories which were fact checked. Now, navigating the COVID-19 epidemic. So if you have a health emergency like this, then what do you need? One, you need authoritative and correct information on the virus. You need scientific ways to keep yourself safe. You also, need to have knowledge about the preventive measures, information about medical remedies, awareness about how to deal with the medical emergency. These are the things which are required. The most important is how to identify fake news and stay away from it, because there are a lot of problem which was created because of the fake content and misinformation. So how do we do that? Now I'm coming back again to the media and information literacy competencies, and we'll talk in the context of COVID-19. For example, the first point which I mentioned was access. So which means you need to know where to get information related to COVID-19 from. For example, if you come across something and you want to verify where you should go, you need to know about the website for cross-checking. For example, you should go to World Health Organization, Center for Disease Control and Prevention, Food and Drug Administration, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, ICMR, state health ministries. So these are the places where you should be going and accessing information, rather than looking at your WhatsApp and saying that, oh, this is something which I have received, and then sharing it with 50 other people, and later on realizing that is something which was not accurate. So it's better to access information from the authentic sources. So this is the first thing. Then you need to know that, because at the time of the crisis, there are a lot of organizations working towards it. For example, WHO WhatsApp number. They have WhatsApp number. right? So you need to know about that WhatsApp number. You can also access them on this particular website if you want to get some information. Government of India also has launched MyGov Corona Help Desk on WhatsApp, and this is the number. So this is how you access information. And as a media and information literate citizen, you need to know that, okay, these are the places from where I can get a authentic piece of information, and you should be aware of such places, websites, or offices. Then analyze, which is very, very important. Now, there are certain questions that you need to ask. If you see any news which is related to COVID-19, the first one is the source. Is the source credible and authentic? Which means, where is this news coming from? We have seen number of WhatsApp forwards wherein the news item is there. Now the news item is there. Anybody can create a news item like this. Whosoever knows, any, production software, they can create a piece like that. But you need to know, if someone sends you that, then you need to know, like, which newspaper is this. Many a times when you see that clipping, the name of the newspaper is not there. So, is the source credible and authentic? What is the source, and is the source credible and authentic? Second is the content. Is the content believable, or is it outlandish? So many a times, when you look at the content, you get to know. So any content which actually arouses, extreme emotions, you should be wary of, such content. So you need to question the content also. Does the news quote authoritative sources? Like, what are the sources? Who are telling this? That by consuming this, it will be cured. Is that person a doctor? Who is this doctor? Whether this doctor has authority to say this thing. So we need to question all these things. Is it a social media post that is compelling you to forward and share? So there are a number of such posts, and especially like the fake content, you'll always have a last line which says that, share it with your friends or share it with your, family members. So is this like message which is compelling you? If they're compelling you, so please stop, think about it, and only then you should take your decision. And is the content inciting extreme emotions, as I said earlier? So are you scared after reading that, or like are you very angry after reading that particular message? If that is something which is happening, then just hold on for a for a minute, think about it, try and analyze it, and then you share if you think it is worth sharing. So these are the questions which you need to ask when you receive any content related to anything. Right now we are talking about COVID-19, but it could be anything. Then reflect. Am I compulsively forward WhatsApp posts without verifying? Am I forwarding those without verifying? Is it just because someone has sent me and I just have to forward it to a number of people just to show my presence, to make my presence felt? Am I doing it for that? Or I really believe that this is the right content, I have verified it, and I need to share it with a group of people. Then regularly share sensitive Facebook posts that suits your line of thinking. Are you forwarding because you feel that this is a right piece of information, or you are forwarding because you believe that yes, it could be true, or like it is in line with your way of thinking? I believe in this particular maybe like issue this way, so that's why I am forwarding it. So there is a difference in this. So when you are forwarding, you have to be very, very clear, like, why are you forwarding this? It's just because that you are with a one particular group, and this message is like with that group, and that's why you are forwarding it, or you actually feel that yes, it is important to share this piece of information? Then are you mindlessly retweeting anything that suits your judgment? Right? So this is something which you have to keep in mind. So these are the, if you're doing this, then you need to stop and you need to think about it. Then identifying fake news in the midst of information explosion. This is very, very important. And as I said, that acting is something which is very important. And there are a number of fact checking tools which we should be aware of. So, but I won't be talking about fact checking. I'm just sharing with you that there is something called Google text search, which you can use. But, we take number of workshops on fact checking and verification. We can do that separately if you would like us to do that. Then how you can act. For example, IFCN is International Fact Checking Network. They have started, they have collaborated with the Pointer, and this is the chatbot. And they have, this number for, fact checking organizations from the different countries. Say, for example, if you get an information from Brazil, what do you do in that case? So these are the WhatsApp number. You should know about this thing. If you go down, you will see like these are the fact checking organizations from India. So if you come across any information and if you have a doubt and if you want someone else to fact check for you, so you can contact these people. Then the Google has started this fact check explorer. For example, you want to have information related to coronavirus and want to know that whether it has been checked by any third party fact checking organization. So you just type the keyword and it will tell you like who had fact checked this and whether it is right or wrong. So you need to be aware of this. Also, I don't know whether we have seen this carefully or not. When you start there on the first search engine result page, there is a button which is called send feedback. You go to any article, if you feel that there is something objectionable in that particular article, highlight that part, and you can always send feedback and say that you have an objection to this piece of information. So this is something which you can do. You can report. Then even in Facebook, you have that, you see those three dots. When you click on that, you can report any post, you can report any ad. Similarly, this can be done with the Twitter. You can report any tweet, and they'll ask you what are the reasons for this. So you have to give your own reasons for reporting that. Then you have ASCII. As I said earlier, we keep complaining about a lot of advertisements, not in good taste, vulgar, number of reasons for that. So the ASCII, they have their complaint form, they have WhatsApp number also, you can track your complaint. So please act, which means it's not just analyzing and saying yes, no, but wherever you feel something wrong is happening, we need to act on that. News broadcaster associations, they have their own download form. You can download it. You can complain against any news channel if you come across anything which is you felt is not right. Then Indian Broadcasting Foundation, again there is a complaint file. Then Press Council of India, again they have their form. So if you want to complain, Delhi Police, I don't know about others. I've not seen their website, but they have a section which is called fake news verification. You can take help from them also if you want to. So but do explore this. Then National Cyber Crime Reporting Portal, so you can file complaints here also. And so these are the things which you can do. I mean, these are the things which are doable, which means like if you come across anything objectionable, or if you have doubt on any piece of information, you have number of ways to handle that. And there are a lot of people who are already there to help you out with this. And this is the last, the slide which I have with you, which I have with me for you. And this is the tweet which was done, and it's a retweet by Amitabh Bachchan. And this says the world sees us, we are one. And this happened, when our Prime Minister said that we need to light diyas and all. And this photograph, and we knew that the next day this photograph will be viral, and Mr. Bachchan also shared this particular photograph. But if you look at this photograph carefully, or not even carefully, even if you ask a 8th grade or 7th grade kid, the kid would tell you very clearly that how come like the entire world is dark and the only India is lit, which means it's a fake image, it's a manipulated image. So the whole idea about media and information literacy is that you have to ask questions. You have to ask questions to the media organizations, to the journalists, and even to your favorite film star if they are sharing any information which you feel is not right. So you need to point it out. So the heart of media and information literacy is inquiry. So this is something which I would like to share with you. And
I think we've lost Dr. Anubhuti. In fact, we've got with us a video which we would like to show you. Let me just put that on for you, which sort of talks about the same thing. 5 tips to check if the news that you're viewing is fake. Let me just put that on for you on screen. Okay. In fact, I love the way that she used the word infodemic and not I mean during this pandemic. That's so true, right? And also the key words that I really liked were misinformation menace. And of course, after yesterday, we saw that so many of our participants had continuously kept asking about media literacy in schools and implementing it. I think it was great, and somehow it was, I think, perfectly planned that her lovely immense work in media literacy in schools, we could see the kind of work that was put in and how it is implemented practically. I'm sure our participants must have totally loved that, to hear about it and to see. And I think today's presentation totally needs to be shared to everyone, because there was so much of information that we've got from this. And I think today what we carry back from this webinar is something that we're going to carry back and use for the rest of our life, I'm pretty sure. And talking about teachers, today we see teachers are adapting to the technological advances continuously, and we can see them sort of pushing their boundaries and coming out of their comfort zone, and be it, as she said, the media clubs or taking online classes, they've embraced technology and sort of, gone ahead with things. Leo sir, why don't you also come in? Yeah, okay. Anubhuti ma'am is back.
Really sorry, but it happened after the presentation was over. Yes.
No, I was just talking about, I think I had used the word walking the walk, not just talking the talk, and looking at what you have done and the way that you have implemented practically media literacy in schools. I really hope that this is extended on forever. I mean, like, that's very important. And I'm so glad that we had this discussion. You won't believe the number of people who had asked about this yesterday. So it was such a coincidence, such a perfect thing that you had talked about this today. Thank you so much, ma'am. We have some questions. We have, in fact, a lot of questions from our audience. We'll probably take a few of them today. So we have Mr. Amrit Patnaik. He asks, how can we share a vision for new media literacy ecology that connects partners, practices, solutions, and helps children, families, and communities overcome barriers? He's an assistant professor from St. Mary's College.
Yeah, this is a very nice question and good question. And in fact, like I've been thinking about this for quite some time. What can we do to connect, all these people together? Now, there's one thing which can be done, and we are at the right time in the sense that national policy on education has been approved, and now the NCRT will start working on national curriculum framework, right? If we all get together and if all the partners, people who've been working in this particular area, we have to work on a working group paper on media and information literacy, so that we can submit it to NCRT. And when they roll out curriculum, after the national curriculum framework is prepared, then definitely we'll find some space for media and information literacy in school curriculum. Otherwise, again, this time we're going to miss the bus if we won't do it. So all of us have to come together, and maybe like we have to write to the people who are working in NCRT, that this is something which they need to take up, and this is the need of the hour. This time they should not miss it.
Very true. Very true. We have Leonardo Acosta from the Philippines, and he's asking the topic also about spreading fake news in social media. How can we mitigate this issue, and what specific law is there which supports this?
So one is that how we can mitigate this thing. Say for example, as I said, that we do not have control over this. For example, when we are talking about social media, it's the people who are creating the content, right? So we do not have control over people. We cannot tell them that, okay, don't create. Those who have to create such content, they will do that. So the only solution is to sensitize people about this thing. What could be the impact of this, and there are a lot of people, you're talking about Philippines. There are a lot of people in India who are lynched to death just because of the rumors around certain issues. So we have to make people aware that this could be the impact, and once they're sensitized, once they're media and information literate, I think they'll be responsible enough when they'll create message and when they'll share those messages. So this is one. This is like at the level of media and information literacy, what can be done, sensitizing people. Second is like the different countries have different laws, right? Say for example, in India, we do have number of laws. For example, when it comes to information related to COVID-19, and we have to take different sections from the different acts. So you have this NDMA Act, in which it says that any information at the time of crisis which you are spreading and which can create problem in society, the person can be arrested for that. And there are a lot of people in Maharashtra, they were arrested when such rumors were spread around COVID-19. So there are different sections in under different acts which can be if there is any such case, you can always maybe like, I'm not saying I'm not in favor of arresting people who are writing on social media, but yes, if if people are creating a lot of problem, that yes, the provisions are there. Provisions are there, and it's there in almost all the countries. In India, we have IT Act, Information Technology Act, and under IT Act there are a number of sections, right? So there are laws, and but more than law, more than enforcement, I think what we need to do is we need to sensitize people. I think that's the solution.
True, ma'am. In fact, even Facebook and all is having this new thing that's especially come out during this time, where they've continued, where if suppose there is a post that someone has put up which is which is proven to be false, which is being reported, like the slide that you had shown, it covers the content and tells you that it intimates the audience that this has been shown and has been reported to be false. It's your discretion to open and see this content.
And also report the way I've shown. So if you come across such things, if a lot of people start reporting such content, then obviously like such content will reduce.
Correct, absolutely. Yeah. So we have an assistant professor from Christ University, Bangalore, Parashurama Kamath. He asks, what is the process to start journalism as a subject for state syllabus for +2 level or high school level in any state?
Okay, so see, if you are looking at starting this at +2 level, so which means like you might be considering starting this from 11th and 12th. So 11th and 12th, yes, the provision is there because the subject is already available. Then you need to contact CBSE, because the CBSE is the organization and the body, I mean, which looks after all these things, and they have actually the repository of the schools who have have started and the kind of work they are doing. So I think the best is to contact CBSE, tell them that you would like to start this particular subject at grade 11th and 12th, and I am sure that they'll handhold you. They'll do that.
True. We have a question from a student of MEd, exactly, educators, future educators, from the RVS College of Education in Coimbatore, Revati. She asks, how can we determine the authenticity of a message if the media messages are constructed?
See, it's difficult. It's not easy. But for example, in one of my slides, I said that you need to ask questions, right? For example, if you see a piece of information or a news, you need to ask certain questions. One, where is it coming from? Which means which channel, which newspaper, who has reported this particular incident, right? What are the things which are included in this? Who all are quoted in this? And these are the questions which will help you to find out whether this particular piece of information is authentic or not. Plus the source is something which is very, very important. And especially when we receive a lot of content on social media, WhatsApp, we don't even know the source of that particular information. For example, many a times it happens that there's some accident happens, right? There are a lot of people, there's a plane crash, right? There are a lot of people who will put out photograph there on social media, and that could be the photograph of the plane crash which might have happened 10 years back. So there are a number of strategies for that. Say, for example, I just mentioned very briefly that Google reverse image search should just upload that particular image. If you find that particular image already on the internet, that means that this is not a right thing. This is something which had happened 10 years ago. So it cannot be believed. And for the fact checking, for the verification, there are a number of strategies. And I think till now, when it comes to fact checking and verification, we've been conducting training programs only for the media educators and journalists. But I think now we need to start these training programs for the community also, for the journal people also, and not only journal people. I think that the teachers need to be trained in this particular area if we really want our kids to be media and information literate. So it's difficult, but yeah, by asking right questions, you'll be able to say whether this particular piece of information is authentic or not.
True, ma'am. We have a question from Parvinder Kaur from Chitkara University, Punjab. If I'm not mistaken, she had also reached out to us yesterday. As we are discussing media literacy, when in a democracy, media information literacy is being suppressed by political powers, and media companies are being financially supported by political parties, which is ethically incorrect. Most of the news these days we consume is from social media sites, and which leads to our political opinion being affected and a changed perspective. Your comments on that?
Yeah. So, I mean, very true. I mean, there are a lot of unethical practices which are happening. We all know that. We also know that, how the media is divided, right? So we are all aware of this. The only thing, as I said, that, MIL is the only solution. You need to ask questions, and and not only like asking right questions to maybe like the channel and all. You mentioned about different channel and newspaper. I mentioned about if you have any such content, and if you want to report, you can write to NBA, you can write to IBF. That is something which can be done. But at the same time, as adults, we have that experience, we have that education, we can sift fact from fiction, we know like what is wrong and what is right. We also need to share it with our kids. This is the major problem which we are facing right now. And this happened because nowadays, in any household, if there are 4 members, you would see that there will be 8 screens, right? There is a television, and then you might be having 6, 7 smartphones. So each one of us, we are consuming media messages individually, right? We are not interacting with each other. So it's very important, the concept of co-viewing, which means like if you're watching something, spend some time with each other and watch programs with your family, discuss that. And once you do that, we talked about it, once you do that, then there will be a limited impact of mass media, because you are discussing number of issues with your family members, and you are getting a lot of answers from them. So this is something, and I understand, I mean, I completely agree with you that there are a lot of unethical practices, but this is how it is going to decrease. When you people are not asking question, then even the channels, they'll get away with whatever they want to do. When the audience will start asking question, then yes, and they are answerable to the audience, because they're catering to those audience. So we need to ask those questions.
True, ma'am. Very true. In fact, we even had instances where channels were not allowed to broadcast for a day because of some very unethical things that they have done. So, yeah, we as people have to stand up together to ensure that it happens. Okay, we have Dr. Ramanan Vidya from GRD College of Science. He asks, if media messages are constructed and media is another commercial entity, will regulation help in meeting the challenge of credibility of media?
See, let media be free. Let's not talk about regulation for the media, because if you talk about regulation, and I think what I personally feel, that it should be self-regulation, right? And that's why all these I mean, I've shown you the websites and all. These are all self-regulatory initiatives. They're doing it themselves. So regulation is not a solution, because if you regulate, then that who's going to regulate. There's a government in power who's going to regulate. Then obviously, like, there will be a lot of problems. So let media be free, right? And this is like the essence of media, right? It's a fourth pillar of our society. It should not be under somewhere. But yes, they should be answerable to the people of our country. They should put out quality content. This is something which is very, very important. So regulation is not there, but little bit of regulation, yes. But for that, the self-regulation regulatory mechanism is already there. But the voice of the audience should be loud enough to reach to these people. I mean, this should be there. So for example, when I showed you all those websites wherein the complaint forms are available, if people are not filling up those forms, then nothing will happen. But once people start talking about it, when they start complaining, and if they're not getting any answer to their complaint, when they are writing to them, then yes, we can see that okay, these people will feel that they cannot take audience for granted. They are asking question, and when they are asking questions, they should be given the right answers. So this is how we need to handle this particular thing, not regulation. I think regulation is not a solution. So media should be free. We should give that space. I mean, they are, and especially like at the time of the COVID, I think media has done excellent work. The reporters and people, they are going out reporting from the different parts of the country, which was a commendable task. So let them be free. Yeah.
True. We have plenty of questions that people have reached out to us, but this is probably the last question. Yeah, I think this will be the last question that we will be taking on. And we'll surely compile the questions and we're going to send it across to you, ma'am. But
Yes.
I'm going to read this out. So we have Mr. Sandeep, who asks, what is the role of artificial intelligence in fake news management?
So the role of artificial intelligence in fake news management, I think what all these platforms are doing, for example, Facebook, Twitter, Google, they are using, artificial intelligence. For example, Facebook, they have this one platform which is called CrowdTangle, right? And people, for example, I do have access to that. So it actually gives me a list of, the fake content which is doing wrong, right? So depending upon the words, depending upon the issues, so they actually categorize the content in the different categories. So the artificial intelligence will play a great role. There are a lot of startups who have started working in this particular area, wherein by using artificial intelligence you can spot the fake content, which is difficult. Say for example, till now we've been talking about the different tools which are available, but when it comes to deep fakes, when it comes to verifying audio, is something which is very difficult even now. So I think the artificial intelligence in future will play a great role in identifying fake content, and also maybe like helping people to spot such content. And I think but right now I've not seen a lot of integration and use of artificial intelligence in this, but I do know a lot of people who are working in this particular direction. Yes.
True, ma'am. True, ma'am. Lovely, lovely, lovely. All good things need to come to an end, and I really wish we could extend this conversation for a longer time. But unfortunately, we already exceeded our time. So I would really like to thank you, ma'am. I would love
Thank
if you
you so
could
much.
share this presentation with us. I love
Sure.
the way you use the word infodemic and misinformation menace. That's so true. I was talking about it, in fact, when we just lost you for a minute. And it's really been lovely seeing the groundwork that you have done. I'm really so happy to have been a part of this forum with you. And audience, I'm really sorry we were unable to answer all of the questions. I really apologize for that, but I'll definitely compile it and send it to ma'am with the answer, and I'll get back to you with the answers. So with this, we come to the end of the session today. I would like to thank the management, principal ma'am, and other department faculty, as well as the non-teaching staff for their undivided encouragement and support. You are the backbone for this webinar series to materialize, and of course, our enthusiastic participants for their robust participation. And I would also like to extend a sincere thank you to UNESCO, GAPMIL, and our media partner, News Minute. And I would like to put on record my sincere thanks to Dr. Anubhuti. I wish that we have more and more media educators and students walking the walk like you have. It's been a privilege to share this forum with you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and thank you everyone, like those who were there with me. It was good to share my experience, and I really want to thank the college for organizing this. And as I said, it's really nice to see there's a lot of momentum related to media and information literacy. There's a lot of webinars happening. It's good to share, our experiences and learn more. And in fact, as Ananda said, that if you have any question, you can write to me. My email ID is anubhuty@gmail.com. I'm there on Twitter also, with the Twitter handle @Yadav Anubhuti. So I would love to interact with you on media and information literacy. So thank you very much, Ananda, once again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. The feedback link will be posted very shortly on the screen. Okay, here's the feedback link. It will also be shared over the social media also. And please note the feedback code for today. It's different from yesterday. Viscom KCLAS. We, of course, have a variety of programs listed for tomorrow. Tomorrow we will be having Dr. Jayaprakash from PSG College of Arts and Sciences, Coimbatore. He will be talking about media literacy, pictures and pictorials. So let me just show you a small lineup of what is coming up in the next few days.